Hey there, I'm Dan Cleary with Cleary Creative Photography. In today's video, I'm going to take you behind the scenes of a portrait session I recently did for a client who's an author and who needed some promotional photographs. Now, something that she could perhaps use on her website, on the book jacket, or even social media. When she first called me, we talked about what kind of look she was going for, and she mentioned the idea of doing the session in a bookstore, which sounded great to me. I thought that would be a perfect fit for an author. But of course, the first thing I had to do was actually call the bookstore and see if they would let us come in and do this photography. Well, luckily they said yes. Now, like a lot of folks I work with, she was a published author, but more importantly, she was a mom and a wife. And like many people, she hadn't been photographed professionally for a long time, perhaps since her wedding. And that's pretty common. So when I'm photographing someone on location, I bring a lot of lighting equipment with me, and I use battery-powered lights from Godox, and we call this off-camera lighting. But what that allows me to do is to light the people and so it looks natural, but also to illuminate the space that we're working in. Now, while I'm setting up all my lighting and thinking about my cameras, one of the most important things I'm doing is I'm actually having a conversation with her, because that helps the people that you're photographing to relax. Just simply having a conversation, getting to know them, makes them feel more comfortable in front of the camera. So, I learned that she's from Australia, that she's married to an Australian Air Force officer who's stationed here in the United States for a few years, and that they've got 4 boys, and her oldest boy is 16. We talked about all that while I was figuring out my lighting and my camera angles. I guess you could say I was multitasking. Once everything was ready, and I'm getting ready to shoot, now I'm pointing my camera at her, and sometimes that can be a little intimidating. So I like to break the ice on some level, and in this case I said, you're not the first Australian woman who I've ever photographed. You want to guess who the first one was? And she laughed and said, I have no idea. I said, well, many years ago I actually photographed Olivia Newton-John, which is a true story. That got her to smile and relax, and sometimes that's all it takes. Her publisher requested that we do both horizontal and vertical shots, so we moved around a bit, and for the next shot I did a little bit wider angle shot. I wanted to get more of the bookstore in the scene, but that required that I also put some lighting on the background, so I hid 2 lights behind big columns so you can't see them, but just pointing them at the ceiling, and it illuminated the background as well as still lighting her. But because the background was still a little darker, I had to slow the shutter speed down a bit, and that allows some of the ambient light to come in and balance the whole photograph to make it look better. Now, the last shot we did was her leaning up against a bookshelf. It was very relaxed, and she was very natural looking. Now, my lighting was still very similar. I used a softbox and an umbrella on her, but then I bounced the light off the ceiling to give the background some illumination, a little light to her hair. After we were finished inside, we went to do a few outdoor portraits. Luckily, it was an overcast day, perfect for portraits. The cloud cover gives you a nice even light, but the light is overhead, so you have to add a little bit of light to illuminate their face. So I used an on-camera flash here, but I had the on-camera flash set at 1/8 power, just enough to lift the shadows and add a little life to her face without making it look artificial. Well, that's it. That's how I approach a portrait session on location. Lighting, connection, and paying attention to the little things that make a big difference. If you found this helpful and you want to hit the button and subscribe to my photography tips and behind the scenes stories. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.